Hello and welcome to the Dial or Till I Die podcast. Well, that early season optimism has definitely eroded. Darlington have managed just one win from their opening 6 games, and once again they were undone by a late goal, falling 2-1 away at Macclesfield. To borrow a line from D. Ream, things can only get better. Joining me today on the panel to help make sense of it all, back for his 3rd appearance now on the pod, it's David Steele. Hi David, how are you?
I'm well, Adam. Thanks for having me on again.
And alongside David today, I'm delighted to welcome the chairman of the Darlington Supporters Group, making his debut. It's Jon Saddington. Jon, great to have you here.
Hi, Adam. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
My pleasure. Jon, maybe we'll start with you, given it's your first appearance. Just tell the listeners a little bit about your role. You've been on the board since 2018 and have been chair for the last sort of 3 years or so, and a little bit about your journey supporting this football club.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't start obviously as the chairman of the supporters group. I started as a 13-year-old lad at the time, and my dad took me to my first game, which was in 1990. So the GM Vauxhall Conference year, and we were playing Cambridge United in the FA Cup, and I think it was a replay, and I'm sure lots of people that are listening to the pod will remember that game. And unfortunately, it was a 3-0 defeat. I think we were doing okay, did we? I think Les McJanet scored, didn't he? But ultimately,
McJanet scored. We were leading 1-0.
Yeah, and Archie Stevens missed a header in the 6-yard box, I think, as well, to put us 2-0 up. But yeah, we ended up losing 3-1. And Dion Dublin made his name that year and went on to sign for Manchester United. That was my first taste of football at Darlington, and I think you're hooked at that point, aren't you, on your first game, and your team chooses you more than the other way around. And unlike marriage, you can't divorce, can you? So you're stuck with your club for life. But those first 2 seasons, really, 2 championship winning sides, and I thought Darlington Football Club were, playing champagne football, and it was going to be like that forever. Sadly, it wasn't, was it? So that was my first game, and then ever since then, I grew up looking at the Evening Gazette for little snippets of information, not like we get now with all social media and podcasts and access to all the information that we have online. I think it was just Andrew Wilkinson's little bit in the Gazette every now and again, and I used to buy that on a lunchtime and see if we'd signed anyone or not. And then from there, I ended up on BBC Tees. I did a bit of co-commentary with James Mountford, who became a good friend, and Ray Simpson as well. So I did some co-commentary with Ray, and then ended up on the fans forum with Ali Brownlee, which used to be, I don't know whether you guys remember that, but it was like a midweek programme at BBC Tees, and they would have a Borough supporter there and a Hartlepool supporter, and Ali would just chat through the week's events with you, and it was really good actually. And Ali was a top guy, and obviously very much missed. So from there, just followed the club as everybody else has done, and I think it was 2018. I was talking to Chris Stockdale, and Chris said, why don't you come and stand for the board? Why don't you join the board? So that from 2018, I joined the supporters group. And then Chris moved on from the supporters group in his chair role and became a director of the football club. At that point, there was a vacancy for the chairman role, and that's what I've done for the last 3 years, and it's quite an involved role.
Brilliant. We're going to talk about matters on the pitch. I'll maybe come to you, David. We're talking after the 2-1 defeat away at Macclesfield. When the fixture list came out and we looked at those fixtures for August, the feeling was it was probably not the easiest set of games to start with, and so it's been proven. What have you made of the Quakers' start?
Obviously, like everybody else, disappointed with the number of points that we have and probably where we're sat in the table, if that matters at this point in the season. On the other hand, large swathes of it, I don't think we've been that far away. I actually think we've got a good side. Clearly, we've conceded points in a few games late on. So you then start to think, well, is that fitness? Is it psychology? What is that? Steve said in his PMI yesterday, we we now can score goals. We're guaranteed to get 1, 2 or 3 goals per game. But the problem is we're probably likely to ship 1, 2, 3 goals per game. And that's become the issue. I think when I looked at August at the start of the season, I thought if we had 8 or 9 points by the end of August, a couple of wins, maybe 2 or 3 draws, we'd have done well. As it is, we're 5 points from August. And it's fine margins, isn't it? And, we hold on against Telford, which we should have done. And we win that game. And we draw yesterday. And we're about where I thought we'd be at the end of August. As it is, kind of 10, 15 minutes of football and it's all doom and gloom. So Darlow fans who know me know I'm a pretty balanced, level-headed guy. I'm not going to start shouting and screaming. I'm a bit disappointed with the start. But by the same token, there's a long way to go. I think there's some signs there. If we can shore up the back and kind of cut out this kind of last 15, 10, 5-minute kind of freeze, we'll do okay. But, the squad is the size it is because of the budget that we have, because of the finances of the football club. We, unless somebody else has a different plan and a whole load of money, we are where we are for now. Disappointed, but not doom and gloom entirely, I think. And hopefully we can address some of the issues and kick on in September and kick up the table a bit.
Yeah, John, I think last season our defence, I think, got a lot of praise, and rightly so. Whereas we seem to have, from what I gather, maybe gone a bit more gung-ho this season, if you like, and we're maybe we're scoring goals. So I think we've scored in every game so far, but we look very vulnerable. Do we perhaps need to compromise some of that attacking flair for a bit more pragmatism, or what do you reckon?
Well, I know that Steve and Terry are working incredibly hard to make continual improvements, whether that be the playing staff or whether it be tactical or fitness or whatever. Conversations that the board have had with Steve and Terry about where we're at so far this season, I know that they've identified a lot similar things to what we would identify. Steve's, as David's alluded to in his post-match interview yesterday, Steve was saying, we're not a million miles away, and it is those little rub of the greens that maybe we've lost points on. And I tend to agree with that. And I think it's frustrating is probably the word that I would use, because we aren't a million miles away. And it was always going to be a difficult start. When you look at the sides that we have to play, Chorley, Fylde, Kings Lynn, Macclesfield Town, they're all sat in the playoff positions now. And I think we expected that. I think if we look at it honestly, we might have thought, well, the way that we've played, that we might have picked up another 3-4 points from those games, which would have sat us in 11th place. And, that probably would have been about where we'd have expected to have been after a very difficult start. And you would now expect us over the run up to Christmas to start climbing the table. And I think we will. And then a week's a long time in football, isn't it? We're going to beat Marine on Tuesday and putting in another couple of good performances, and then everybody's not too concerned about the defence anymore. Toby Lee's alluded to it as well, didn't he? That we need to be tighter when we're marking on crosses and trying to cut crosses out. So the players themselves are aware as well where they need to improve, and I'm sure they will.
Definitely. David, I just want to quote this to you. This was from, on Twitter, Ben Pearson. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Ben.
I know Ben,
a lot of our listeners might be. Yeah. He tweeted that Darlington, since the start of last season, have dropped 18 points from winning positions at home, most of those coming against sides at the bottom of the table. I guess my question to you is, David, is that a fitness thing with us being part-time perhaps, or is there just a bit more to it?
It's a good question, and I'm sure it's one that Steve and Terry are working hard on as we speak. I mean, I looked at the Telford game on Saturday as the latest version of that, and we were 2-0 up at half-time. Telford had travelled a long way. They'd had a fairly average start. I think they'd drawn 2 from 4. They didn't look great in the first half. I was very optimistic at half-time we were going to win that game, and the second half was a different game. And I think we we changed how we played and they changed how they played. And subsequently, we lost that second half 2-0 and drew the game 2-2. Now, that wasn't fitness for me, I don't think. I think that was more of a style of play and a mentality. And, we've all been following Darlow a long time. Regardless of the manager, regardless of the players, we've all seen Darlow sides over the years get the fear. They can be 2-0 up, concede a goal, 50, 60 minutes, and you can just feel the tension is palpable on the pitch. And that seems to have been a thing in our DNA for a long, long time. And you could just see it coming on Saturday. So Ben's right to point it out. Fitness, these lads train twice a week, but they all, I'm sure they also look after themselves away from training and they're all fit young lads. And yes, if you're full time, you train every day and maybe that gives you a slight competitive advantage. But we've hammered teams that have been full time and fitness has never come into play then. So at the moment, it might be more of a mentality, psychology thing, but it's certainly something we need to stamp out because like we've just been saying there, we beat Telford and then we go and get a draw at Macclesfield, i.e. we don't concede late goals and we hold those positions that we've got. And we're, to Jon's point, we're mid-table right now and that makes a massive difference. So yeah, it's certainly something to address. And you used the word gung ho. Maybe what we've sacrificed in trying to score more is that we're more open at the back now.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
for quite a few games. Sorry, Adam. We've been playing with 2 number 8s, haven't we?
Yeah.
Which then does give you less defensive cover. So I know again that's a tactical thing for Steve and Terry to look at, but and we're a possession-based team, aren't we? We can't get away from that. And I know that was. But a lot of people have pointed to the fact that maybe that's why we slipped against Telford is because we shifted from possession-based football and just seeing the game out to pumping it long. And maybe that was the pressure of playing at home or whatever. We don't know, but I'm sure it'll be addressed.
Yeah, so some calls to bring in a centre-back. Now, I know we've signed Ty Barton from Inter Miami just a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if Ty has actually had any sort of meaningful minutes yet. Do you think maybe like a no-nonsense centre-half would be the answer at the minute? I'm thinking someone like Danny Ellis, I think from a few years ago, you might remember him, no-nonsense, physical centre-back. Are we lacking something like that at the moment?
Well, Lewis Story came in and made a difference last year, didn't he?
Exactly, yeah. Just going to say the same.
Yeah, he did. But we do have 3 very good centre-backs. And I think Steve's put his trust in those guys, isn't he? Bobby Lees, Elliot Forbes and Scotty Barrow, with Scotty being player of the season last year. So we've got the quality there. Maybe we look at 3 at the back. I don't know. Again, it's for the management team, isn't it, to look at and tweak and identify where we can improve. But in terms of personnel, I don't think our centre-backs, I don't think we urgently need to bring in another centre-back. But I think it's just those guys looking at where they can improve their performances.
Steve said it, didn't he? That largely the same personnel that was grinding out clean sheets when we were on the verge of going down a season and a half ago. And it sounded to me yesterday, listening to the game on the radio, that Platt had to come off, Forbes had to come off, and with the greatest respect to the lads that came on, and Barton was one of them, and it was his first taste of playing, so not easy for him at all. We then go and concede. Now, I'm not a fortune teller, but maybe if Forbes and Platt see that game out, maybe we draw it 1-1 and everyone's happy. So yeah, I don't know whether if a Louis Story or Danny Ellis centre half style became available, great, look at them. But I don't think we're screaming out to me. I think we just need to work on some stuff with the guys that we've got. And to Jon's point, Scott Barrow, Toby Lees, Elliot Forbes, these are all good players. They're experienced lads. They can do it. They have done it. It's just at the moment we're not collectively able to shut teams out how we need to.
Yeah. Jon, again, a lot of fans bemoaning maybe the lack of depth in the squad. I know David obviously mentioned about the budget and, what we can and what we can't do. And I know we've got maybe 2 or 3 players, I think, who are currently sidelined through injury. Do you think that does need to be addressed? That sort of that squad depth, and how easy is it to try and bring in some more players that might have experience from higher levels?
Well, at the start of the season, every manager, including Steve, has a budget, don't they, that they've got to work with, whether it's Darlington or Manchester United. Or mind you, less said on Man United, the best at the moment,
well,
isn't it?
yeah, probably not the best example now.
Yeah, not the best example. But we have a budget that we have to stick to. A lot of that is dictated by Boost the Budget and the incredible donations that our supporters and owners make to the club, which astonishes us all year in, year out. But that sets the budget, and the managers then got a decision to make, haven't they? Do they have better quality players on higher wages, or do they have a bigger squad of maybe less quality players? And it's tough competition for players around here. Spenny obviously competing with us for players. South Shields, our gates at our. We've got tough competition to get these lads through the door, and they do have options. Some of them want to come to the club because of the draw of Steve and Terry. Sometimes for particular players, we're able to compete on the same money, but ultimately the budget is finite. We can't just keep spending and spending and spending throughout the season, because that puts us in a negative cash position, and we don't have a benefactor, so we can't sustain that. So I think the strategy that Steve and Terry took this year was to look at, well, we want a smaller squad but a better quality squad, and what we'll do as the season goes on, we'll supplement that with loan players, develop good relationships with the likes of Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Sunderland, and the bigger clubs as you creep down into Yorkshire. Develop those good relationships, and then you can bring in players on wages that aren't significant, and that aren't going to make a huge difference to our budget, but actually in terms of the squad, it can make a difference. Now, unfortunately, you can only get those better players on loan from the likes of Middlesbrough and Sunderland after a few months into the season, because they want to hang on to them for a bit, see how the development is. Maybe they get an offer to go on loan at a higher level, and then the club will take that one. And then we have the pick, really. So that's only really starting to filter through now in terms of the best quality of available players. But that's always been the strategy, is to supplement with loan players. And you'll have seen a couple of loans come in recently, making a couple of debuts. I know that Charlie Lennon came on the pitch, didn't he, from Borough, and he's highly regarded in England under 17 caps. So he's got credibility, he's got good quality, that lad. So hopefully we'll see some good stuff from them. But that's it. We can't just keep spending and spending, Adam, and that's the choice of the management team.
Yeah, I mean, John, I guess you touched on it there. I'm quite interested in terms of our geographical position and having those other sort of Spenny and South Shields, like you mentioned then. Like, how hard is it then to attract players to get them to come to Darlington? Are we limited with our geographical location at all?
I don't think we're limited. If you look at what Josh did when he came in, he brought players in from the Midlands, didn't he?
And Tommy, right?
Yeah.
Tommy did the same, didn't he?
Tommy did the same, didn't he?
Did, yeah.
Yeah, they pick players from where they know, don't they? And maybe who they've worked with and what their contacts are. Steve and Terry, obviously, much more North East focused. And it's something that we reflected on after the Josh appointment and how that turned out. And everybody knows how it turned out. It didn't go so well. But we looked at that and we thought, actually, we're very much a Northeast club with a Northeast mentality, Northeast focus. And from our management team, that's probably where we're best picking from. Somebody with that connection, somebody with that background. So maybe when you see somebody on paper that's got all the qualifications, got all the drive, got all the ideas, but they're not Northeast based, maybe they're not the right fit for us. And I think that's what Steve and Terry have thought with the players as well. They've thought, we need a Northeast focus. We want players who can build friendship, togetherness, the travel's nearer, so we can get a real squad, camaraderie, and that's been their focus this year. But obviously the implication of that, Adam, is that you've got Spennymoor Town, you've got all these other teams on the doorstep competing for those lads who want to stay local as well. And these other clubs have benefactors, don't they? They're not fan owned. If they decide that they want to pull a bit more money from one business or another, or they want to push their budget up one year, or they want to just push it out for one player that they're competing with us for, then we find that very difficult to respond to then. And we have had players this season where we're not necessarily offering the best wages to, but they want to come to us because Darlington's a bigger club. Steve and Terry, they want to work with them. They like the fan base. And then they've come here. So it is tough, though. It's tough. It's a tough market.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting an understanding of that. I'll come to you, David. I guess it has been an underwhelming start to the season. With Steve and Terry, they've quite rightly got a lot of credit in the bank for what they've achieved with the club since arriving. Have you got faith in them that they can turn this around?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. I like both of them as people, as leaders, as football men. The season's it's been a bit of a disappointing, frustrating, flat start. But I was in the camp of last season was a success because of the season beforehand. I didn't think in February, March we'd be in National League North in the season after when Steve and Terry first arrived. Didn't see it happening. That was a miracle. And then they did an excellent job in getting us quite near to the playoffs. The season that's just gone. We're 6 games in. I'd have liked us to have won one more game and drawn one more game. So, yeah, shame, not the end of the world. If come January, February, we're still in this kind of spiral of form, then, I'm sure Steve and Terry will have some harder questions to answer from everybody, I'm sure. But I haven't even thought about whether I'd question those guys as to the start of the season. I've got loads of faith in them. Obviously, John and I are privileged to see the work that they do behind the scenes. It's a bit of an iceberg thing. Fans unfortunately only get to see the little tip of it at the top. The real work is the whole big landmass under the sea. And they're fighting really hard every day to make this club as best as it can be. And they're great ambassadors for the club. They're good people. So yeah, no questions for me on that score.
Yeah, definitely so. John, I wasn't planning to ask you this, but you did mention Steve's predecessor there. I did wonder maybe after the aftermath of that, what lessons might have been learnt from that whole episode.
Yeah. Do you know, I think Josh was successful in the interviews that we held because he's a very capable guy, very knowledgeable guy, very driven, charismatic. But I don't think in hindsight that Darlington Football Club were the right fit for him and he wasn't the right fit for us. I think Josh, if he had full of ideas, maybe a very involved approach to tactics management, and maybe at our level when you don't have much contact with the players, you're trying to get those ideas across and it maybe doesn't land. So for me, I think Josh will have a good career, successful career. If he had a team around him where he's got lots of analysts and he's got coaching staff around him, probably at a higher level, I think he would have been a really good fit for a team like that. But at our level where you need, you've got limited contact time with the players, you need to get key ideas across in a short space of time. Then that wasn't Josh, unfortunately. And I think I think the other thing as well, I mentioned it to Will. I was chatting to Will Hatfield at the end of season awards, and I said, what's the difference with Steve? And he said, like, when Steve walks into the room, everybody's like, the gaffer's here. Everybody's got instant respect. Everybody listens to what he's got to say and wants to implement what he's got to say. So he's a real leader. He's a good leader. And again, going back to that northeast base that we were talking about as well. So I think they're the key things that we've learned from that whole episode is a manager that knows Darlington, a manager that's northeast based, and a manager that can work at a semi-professional level effectively. That's what we've picked up, and that's exactly what Steve and Terry do. So they're excellent fit for us, and we're privileged to have them, I think, is my view.
Yeah, definitely. Of course. Yeah. Sorry, David, go on.
Sorry, I'm just going to add to that as someone who's worked in the talent space myself for over 20 years. very, very, very competent, experienced hiring people get recruitment wrong occasionally. It happens. It's frustrating. It can cost a lot of heartache and a lot of money. And you can make a hiring decision with the greatest intention and having all the facts in front of you, and it doesn't pan out right. Personally, at the time, I wasn't opposed at all to a kind of different appointment to Alan, I suppose. I thought Josh was potentially a progressive, bold appointment in many respects. It was a gamble. The club did take a risk in appointing that profile of manager. It didn't work. I think the club addressed it very quickly. It made a different type of appointment in Steve, just in the nick of time, and Steve kept us up. So I think whilst the club maybe rightly deserves criticism for appointing Josh for how it panned out, it also deserves praise for it. You know, it acted quickly and it made a different appointment, and that worked. So you live and learn, don't you? But you know, people make decisions with the club's interest at heart, whether they pan out or not. But yeah, as Jon says, you know, lessons have been learned, and that's all you can do. Move forward and don't make those mistakes again, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely so. Jon, you touched on about the amount of time that Steve and Terry have with the players. Of course, we're just training 2 evenings a week. I think Steve said in his post-match yesterday that he's not going to see the players, obviously, till Tuesday. They won't have an opportunity to train before the Marine game. I remember there was talk a season or two ago about not a hybrid system, but perhaps maybe an extra training session in the week, maybe moving from 2 sessions to 3 sessions. I wondered maybe if that was still a possibility down the line at all.
Yeah. Well, it's it all costs money, doesn't it? So I think if you're expecting the players to come in for an extra day, then they'll look for remuneration for that, I'm sure. It's very difficult to sign a player on the premise of one setup and then move to another in terms of contact hours. So I think if we were changing position, then that would have to be clear with players and contracts from the outset. Is my understanding. I don't think there's any imminent plans to change. It's something that we'll continue to take a view on. You know, do we increase contact hours? Do we look at a hybrid model? I mean, we'd love to go full time at some point, but obviously that comes after the new ground, doesn't it? You know, that's going to be the catalyst for progressing the club. But at this moment in time, I think we're working with a model that we can afford. Whilst we know that it's not perfect, it can achieve results. You know, there are teams above us in the league at the moment on the same model. I know we shouldn't look at the league table too early in the season, but
until Christmas,
I think it's inevitable that those teams on full time and hybrid models will group together at the top of the league by the end of the season. I think it's just the way it works. So it would be nice, wouldn't it? But we've got what we can afford at the moment, unfortunately.
You obviously mentioned the new ground there, Jon.
Yeah.
So let's move on to that now. Look, before we get into it, I think I speak for any right-minded Darlaw fan when I say, you know, express my appreciation to everyone who's working very hard behind the scenes to try and secure us that new home. Now, we did have that statement released by the club, I think, at the beginning of the month. Look, obviously a setback. I just thought, Jon, maybe for fans who don't realise just how complicated it is, if you could explain in simpler terms the number of parties involved in this and why it's kind of taking so long.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the first thing I would say, and it just reiterates the statement a little bit, is that we are committed to finding a long-term permanent home for the football club. That is our number one priority, and we want to realise our ambition of getting up to the National League and then back into League Two. You know, that is our ambition, and the new ground will ultimately help us facilitate that. It will enable that because it will generate revenue, all the rest of it, and lots of people have heard David Johnson's views on that and the importance of it. But it is an incredibly complex process. Again, unfortunately, because we are fan owned. We don't have a pot of money where we can just go and buy a piece of land and raise revenue or raise or borrow money to be able to invest into a new stadium. It's just not possible. So if you're delivering a project, you've either got your own finance, haven't you? You've got private finance from an investor, or you've got public money, or you've got partnership arrangements where lots of parties can come together to deliver a project. And it's the latter that we're seeking to achieve. So we're working with the council. They're keen to, you'll have seen their comments on it from various politicians. They're keen to help Darlington Football Club secure a new home in the town. So it's an objective for them. They've been excellent, to be honest. I do cringe when I see comments online about where the council are at and the historic support for the club. And we know historically, years gone by, it hasn't been great. But right now, their support is excellent, and they're in regular dialogue with us. They want to help us, and they're facilitating relationships where they can. As you know from the statement, we have looked at various locations, including the arena, including Blackwell. Do we do something at Blackwell? Do we do something at the arena? Do we look at a separate piece of land? And we thought we were very close to a solution. But unfortunately, the sand shifted a little bit, and that's what happens when you're dealing with multiple stakeholders. Somebody's position or their commitment that they'd maybe confirmed then waters down to the point of them maybe stepping back from the project. So you've got all these kind of things going on, which don't make it easy, because we can't deliver a project just by ourselves. We are reliant on other parties as well. So yeah, that's why, and we're dead keen to give updates, because we appreciate we're a fan-owned club, and the fans own the club. They've got a right to know what's going on. But it's incredibly problematic when, if we say something, even very little, that it could end up breaking a deal. And you think, well, do we say nothing, or do we come out and tell people what's going on, and then the deal collapses? And I think a lot of people would say, well, clearly don't do that. That would be foolish. But at the same time, people want the vacuum to be filled, don't they? So we do get it. But what I would say is we are continuing to work tirelessly on it. We're continuing to look at, I would say, 3 live options at the moment. We thought we were focusing on one option, but we've expanded that slightly again. And it's the type of thing where you could get significant progress in a matter of a week or two, depending on how the cards fall. But at the moment, we can't say that we've got an option that we're about to deliver, because there's still talks ongoing in the background. But we are working tirelessly to deliver it, and it continues to be a priority for the football club. So that's probably as much as I can say, Adam, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you, because you did mention the arena there, John.
Yeah.
In its current form, I think the statement said it's not an option. Like, what would need to change for it to perhaps be considered?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of options, isn't there, that you could do with the arena. But as it stands at the moment, I think when you look at the history of the place, it bankrupt us, didn't it, to the point of putting us into administration. It was too big for us. It's too big for any sporting club in the town, is the long and short of it. So no club can make it work, whether it be a rugby club or a football club or whoever else operating from the arena. It's just too big a venue, and the burden of its ongoing costs is just too much for it to be sustainable. So as it stands, it would need significant alteration, wouldn't it? It would need to be reduced significantly, or flattened and something else built. But these are all options that are theoretical at the moment. But yeah, as it stands at the moment, you've got a stadium that is struggling to wash its own face financially. So for us to then take on half the burden of that, or the 100% burden of it, we'd be back to square one, wouldn't we? So it's something that we've, as a board, we've decided we just couldn't do. We just couldn't go back, and we don't think the fans would be on board with that either. To go back and say we'll go back to the arena in its current form. I think a lot of people would struggle with that. Not only in terms of its matchday experience, isn't it? It's just a large concrete mass of a vacuous experience of a football game, isn't it? I don't think any of us would enjoy going there. So
I'm not going to argue with that. Yeah.
No, it's just too big, isn't it? It's just too
way
big.
too big. Yeah. I mean, on Blackwell Meadows, look, I've talked about Blackwell Meadows a bit on the pod. Obviously, I get to about 1 or 2 home games a season. I'm not. Most people listening to this pod probably, going 20 plus times a year, aren't they? I'm not a huge fan of Blackwell Meadows personally. I get why the club need to be there. This might seem a little fanciful given what's happened on the pitch at the moment, but I did want to ask if Stephen Terry could pull off a 3-card trick and get us promoted to the National League. What would immediately need to be done to Blackwell Meadows to bring it up to sort of National League standards?
Yeah, so it would need to be 4,000 capacity in time. I think we've got it till March in the following season in order to get it up to shape. But if you've got plans in place, so say for example, we were promoted and we had a planning application in for another ground somewhere, then our expectation is that the league would say, well, look, you're progressing plans for another ground. There's no expectation of you to make the improvements at Blackwell Meadows because you are progressing with a scheme. If we don't have that on the table, then I think it's likely that the league would say, well, try and make some improvements at Blackwell. And that's fundamentally getting the capacity up to 4,000, which is achievable, but obviously you're spending money on a facility that you might not be at in the long term. So we'd be asking fans to put their hands in their pockets to spend money on improving a facility that doesn't belong to us. So it's so the ideal outcome, Adam, is that we progress with a project that works for the football club and is that long-term project, and that we can demonstrate that to the league at the appropriate time. But we would respond accordingly at the time that we needed to if we did get promotion. We have done preliminary work on designs for Blackwell, what can be achieved down there, and getting up to a 4,000 capacity is perfectly reasonable. The thing that goes is flat standing behind the goals, so you lose that as part of your capacity. But clearly, the obvious thing to lots of people would be, well, let's do something, whether it be a terrace or whatever at the open end. That's an obvious solution to bring us up to, and then I think we would need some additional standing, probably between the tin shed and the seated stand as well, to get us up to that capacity of 4,000 to make the maths work out. So it is achievable, but again, it all comes in the balance of what we're trying to achieve, and you don't want to spend money where it's not necessary if that's not the long-term plan.
Is there anything about this water pipe that I read about sometimes when with Blackwell Meadow gets discussed? There's this water pipe gets mentioned a fair bit. Like, how much of an issue is that?
Well, it's still there. It's high pressure water main. It's a high pressure water main. It runs diagonally across the pitch. So there's an easement, I think, of about 6 meters either side of the water pipe, which means pretty much you've got 12 meters from the point of the end of the seated stand towards the tin shed that you can't put anything on. But in case of catastrophic failure, they don't want the pipe exploding and everybody being ejector seats into the air. Yeah. So, and obviously they don't want the pipe compacted because that can cause problems. So you have to respect the easement, which means when you're looking at the open end, you can build, avoiding the pipe. If the pitch doesn't move, avoiding the pipe, you can develop about 2/3 of the end, if that makes sense. 2/3 of the length of the width of the stadium, or should I say 2/3 of the width of the stadium. Yeah. So before you start to hit the easement, but the logical thing is to slide the pitch in a westerly direction towards the open end, make the tin shed a little bit bigger, and then you start to push the pipe into the corner of the pitch, and then that gives you more developable space. So there are solutions and options. Yeah.
Is worst case scenario if you're looking at these live options and if they don't come to fruition, is there sort of a longer term future at Blackwell Meadows, do you think, if
absolutely.
there needs be.
Yeah, if needs be, we would engage with the rugby club and talk about the terms of our lease and how that might look in terms of a longer relationship. So yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, David,
but not our focus, Adam. But not
No.
our focus. I should add.
Yeah. David, you were on the first episode of this podcast. It was, I think, like back in November of last year, wasn't it, with Richard Baker?
That's right.
And we did discuss the proposed new ground. And I remember you were very optimistic. I just wanted to ask you, David, like given the recent news, whether your opinion had veered at all from that, or where you stand at the moment.
No, I mean, I obviously bow and defer to Jon in a number of ways. You know, I'm the vice chair to his chair. He has regular dialogue and indeed sits on the club board as the representative of DFCSG. He also professionally does this stuff for a living. So everything Jon said is what I know. And I think it genuinely felt like something was going to happen at a perfect time. And then for the reasons Jon's outlined, it hasn't yet. The good news is, if you want to be positive, is there are other options. There are a number of options being looked at. So that dream is still alive. It is, I think I said back in November, it's the biggest thing we'll do. It's probably bigger than getting promoted. It's bigger than any signing we could make. It'll be the first kind of ticking the box in terms of getting this club back to the Football League in time, I think. So I personally try not to overthink it because I think it could drive you a bit mad. And I understand the fans' annoyance. I understand when the fans think they're not being told everything. But you've got to listen to what Jon said. We tell the fans absolutely as much as we can without jeopardising anything. We could say more and jeopardise stuff. Who wants that? So it is frustrating. Everyone's just got to keep the faith, as with stuff on the pitch at the moment. And we'll get there one day in some shape or form.
Yeah, very much so. No, I do appreciate what you're able to share there, Jon. No, thank you for your honesty. Just staying on the supporters group, chaps, I was reading a post on Darlow Uncovered the other night from a chap called Darlow Barron, I think, and I thought it was quite a measured post. He was talking about the malaise that possibly might set into the fan base given things not going so well on the pitch at the moment. About the supporters group, David, I think one of the questions or one of the points that was raised was when the next fans forum might be. I don't know if you're in a position to share any information regarding that.
Jon might be able to be better set to answer that question. I mean, I would say on the supporters group, everyone will members and owners will have seen the email recently asking for nominations for election. So we'll have our AGM in October. There are a number of current directors who their 3-year tenure has come up, and they'll either reapply or they won't. In any respect, we always want new people to come on the board, new blood, new ideas, new sets of eyes, etc. So anybody who feels like they could come in and help and make a difference should apply. In terms of malaise, I mean, I think we're all fans first and foremost, and we all want this new ground tomorrow, and we all want to be in the top 3, and we want to be pushing for promotion. There's a realism to all of this, unfortunately, and I know fans get annoyed when it's trotted out, but it's true that we are where we are. Point in terms of ownership, in terms of budget, in terms of the status of the ground, in terms of the resources that we've got, in terms of that we're part-time. They're not excuses, they're facts. And we want to change a number of those things, but you can't change them overnight. And also in terms of the ownership model, I'm a big fan of the fan ownership model. I don't want it to be in its present form forever, because I think there are amendments and additions to the ownership model that can be made that could improve investment, that could improve the football club, that could give a bit bigger budget, etc., etc. I think what the fans do every year and boost the budget in other ways is phenomenal. But we can't ask that same size of fan base to do more and more and more every year. So that'll have to change at some point. So I think we're in a slow period of transition. We've been in the same league for a number of years. We've been at the same temporary ground for a number of years. So I understand why some fans would feel a little bit like we're stuck. Everyone's working hard to change that, but it's going to take a bit of time. I don't know, John, if you want to add to any of that or mention anything about a forum that you might know a bit more about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know that a fans forum is imminent. It's the challenge is getting people's availability on the DFC board side of things, because I'm sure everybody will appreciate their volunteers as well, and they have busy jobs. And I know that DJ in particular has got a very busy month through September, but there is a definite desire to get a fans forum in the diary. So I think it's imminent, I would say. In terms of progress and malaise, I get it, but I think we're having to achieve more every year just to stand still, if that makes sense, because our league gets harder and harder and harder. So 11th this year is probably a better achievement than 11th last year and 11th the year before that. But people don't see that as an achievement, do they? People want us, and we're all the same. We want our team to be top of the league, don't we? And get promoted and moving up the levels. That's what we're all in it for. That's why we love football and sport. But the reality is it's tough. Keeping as a fan-run club, keeping our place in National League North is actually a pretty good achievement. But people look at, we want something to fight for or against, don't we? So we want to fight for promotion or we want to fight against relegation. So when those two things are happening at the end of the season, we're really engaged and everybody's focused and interested and talking about it and putting their money into it. I think when we're bobbling along in mid-table and we're safe, it's easy then just to lose a bit of interest, isn't it? But we'll fight all season to finish as high as we can. You know, we'll support Stephen Terry in that as much as we can.
You're dead right. I mean, it's a momentum game, football, isn't it?
You've said on a...
Sorry, Adam, I was going to say it's a momentum game. In the pre-season before this one was on fire because we just stayed up. And the pre-season we've just had, I think most fans would say, was somewhat more muted because we'd had a pretty consistent, solid season. So you gauge these things via the boost the budget, and the vibe around boost the budget. And the one before was a lot more exciting than the one we've just had, even though we'd had, inverted commas, a better season.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. That's really really interesting sort of topic to talk about. I guess when things aren't going as well on the pitch, maybe the natural instinct is just to maybe just pick out all the bad things, and that's probably what's happening at the moment. Anyway, we'll just park it there for a second, guys. We're going to hear now from Stuart Burkin and Lee Childs, who are part of the Darlington Youth Programme. We're going to talk all things youth for a little bit, but myself, David and John will be back right after this. I'm very pleased to be joined by Stuart and Lee from the Darlington Youth Programme. Maybe come to you first, Lee. For people who aren't familiar, just introduce yourself quickly and tell us a bit about your role within the Darlington Youth section, please.
Hi, Adam. I'm Lee Childs. I'm the club chair of Darlington FC Youth. Essentially what that means is that my role in the club committee is to coordinate all the activities to make sure that we're doing all the things we need to do from a league perspective, and then to make sure that we've got teams that are playing at the right level across our boys and girls section, and ideally create a pathway of players that are going towards our women and men's first teams. Yeah,
fantastic. And I'll ask you the same question, Stuart.
Yeah, hi Adam. Stuart Burkin. I am Darlington FC Youth Club Secretary. Essentially everything lands on my door to then partition out to the relevant representatives within the youth system. I also manage the Darlington Under-16 girls team and absolutely love it.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'll come to you, Lee. How did you first get involved in the Darlington youth setup?
Like Stuart, I'm also a coach. So I started as a parent a long time ago. My little lad used to play. He started something we used to call mini strikers. And then they needed a coach to take an under-6s team all those years ago. So I started as a coach, and then thought I would give a little bit more to the club. joined the committee as a development officer, working in the boys section, and then on the treasurer, and then very recently I've become the club chair. So started as a parent initially, but been a journey.
Yeah, sounds like it. And what about yourself then, Stuart?
Yeah, I think Lee's journey is pretty much echoed by most players, coaches, managers that get into youth football. Mine was exactly the same. I was at a different team with my daughter in a boys' team, and as she was getting a little bit older and everything was getting a little bit more physical, and decided that a girls' team now was the way to go. Joined Darlington and never looked back, really. Absolutely loved the club, loved the girls that she plays with, and they asked me to get involved a little bit more onto the committee, and I have an inability to say no.
Yeah, that'll teach you, won't it? Yeah. So, Lee, then tell us about like a typical week behind the scenes for the Darlington youth section.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot that goes on. So a typical week would constitute daily phone calls between myself, Stuart. It might be with Dan, our development lead, or Claire, who looks after fixtures and pitches, or Ben, the welfare officer. So we've got a great committee of people who support Stuart and I, but there's a lot of communication going on. Lots of small little activities that need to be carried out, especially this time of year. We've got players to be registered for the start of the new season. We've been going through recruitment, so lots of conversations with coaches about where they're at with players and squads. So this time of year it's really busy. So lots of conversations and lots of communication. But then when we get into the season, it's more just about making sure that we do all the things we need to do from a league perspective, making sure that we fill the teams correctly, making sure the coaches fill in the bits they need to do on the apps and team sheets and stuff like that. So that's a lot of what goes on in the club. And then beyond that, for Stuart and I, it's making sure that we get all the bits right on finances and everything else.
Yeah, and of course you're doing this with full-time jobs, isn't it? I mean, it sounds like it could be a full-time job in itself, but all kudos to you both. So how many teams, and then like how young might the team start with, and tell us a little bit about the wider structure then. Don't know who wants to take that one, if it's Lee or Stuart.
Do you want to take that, Stu?
Yeah, I can do. Lee, yeah, we've got 30 teams in the club at the moment, Adam, 20 boys teams, 9 girls teams, and our male under 23s team. So we've got a really good, solid pathway for both boys and girls, right the way from our young play phase at 6-year-old, right the way through to under 23s.
Yeah. Is there hope to maybe even grow it further at all, Stuart? Or
ideally, Adam, yes. We're hamstrung at the moment, really, with space. I think every club, every community club are looking for additional 3G space. We're working closely with Darlington First Team in terms of the new ground, and we'll hopefully be involved in them conversations once we do move to our new ground, and that will expand our training facilities, which will allow us to expand our opportunities across all age groups.
I mean, I was just going to ask you about some of the challenges that you face in sort of doing this youth setup, chaps, and well, I guess you've just told me one there, but yeah, funding, facilities, player retention as well, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, we do well with player retention. Standards of coaching are good. We played the majority of the time. Our teams play in the top divisions or top 2 divisions across the leagues they play. Player retention is always a challenge. But the standard of coaching is good across the club. That does help us retain players. But as Stu alluded to, it's the biggest issue we do have is facilities. So we're massively relying on how the weather goes, because we train on grass pitches. So yeah, more 3G facilities across the town would be a massive help to us as a grassroots club and to all the other grassroots clubs in the town. Sure.
And then, like, thinking about the player pathway then, so a young player starting maybe under 7s, what does that look like then going through the ranks then?
We put a lot of onus and emphasis on our youth, on a really youth teams. Right the way at 6 and 7s, we've implemented a play phase scheme. Dan's done a great job in making sure that hopper feeder, as we call it, into our grassroots teams is there, and then making sure that the structure of the club allows us to retain them players and play at a high standard right the way through the system. We're starting to see the fruits of that labour. We've really been giving it a lot of focus in the last couple of years. The bonus that we're seeing at the moment is our under-23s team is performing really, really well, and we're starting to see some of them young men sitting on the bench and getting minutes with the first team, which is, gives us clear indication of pathways from a first team perspective. But we've been doing that in the ladies section for some years now, and we've worked closely with Sean McKenzie. I'm also a coach for Darlington women, so we see a clear pathway for our women as well as our men into the first team, and we've got 4 or 5 regulars in Darlington women who came from Darlington youth teams, and Sean was integral as part of that as well. So the key onus here is a clear, concise pathway with seeing the evolution, seeing the people within them first teams and where they came from, and that's really important to us.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I go back thinking when I was a young lad supporting Darlow, and we had a few. Remember, like Sean Gregan and Robbie Blake spring to mind. Hasn't been too many, I think, since then. But like you said, we've had the likes of Will Madison and Matthew Kirakura, if I've said that correctly. Yeah. I think he's just joined Aycliffe on loan, hasn't he, as well? So hopefully he gets some sort of decent minutes there as well. And I think Jack Mortimer, young striker, featured in pre-season as well. Is there hope there then that we might see eventually a young kid come through and get some sort of meaningful minutes for the first team then? Is that the hope?
Yeah, that's the intention of the youth section. So the idea is that we feed the men and women's teams. We haven't been particularly brilliant at it over the past years for whatever reason, but we have a strategy in place now that is designed to get our players as close to the first team standard as we can. And if they don't go into our first team, at least can we create good young people that are able to play at a decent level, if not at the level of Darlington right at the time. Yeah.
And then how important then is the connection between the youth section and the local community?
Yeah, it's really important that. So I don't know. I'll sort of speak a little bit on this. So we see ourselves as a community club. We really are. We wouldn't exist without the players that we have and the support of the local community and our sponsors, which must be said.
Yeah,
they're a large part of how we fund the club. A lot of our coaches, committee members, and the parents are from the area. It's those people that give up the time to make the club thrive and help us drive it forward. So that's really how we work. We are a community club. We're trying to do more. We're trying to get more into schools so we can pick up players at younger ages, especially in the girls sections. We have lots of open days and activities, which is one at the weekend for the girls section. So we're trying to do more and more in the community because it's massively important to us as a club in terms of engagement with the community, but also how we sustain ourselves and find players for the youth section and the first teams moving forward.
Yeah, brilliant. For people who are listening to this and want to get involved, how might someone do that, or support the youth section? Then what would you advise them to do?
So we've got a number of links in social media, Darlington FC Youth. We've got our contact details are on the Darlington website, or we've got our email addresses, which can be put out as part of the podcast. We'll send you them details later, Adam.
Yeah.
But it's just get in touch that we have a wide range of roles that aren't football related that people can help with. We're looking for a treasurer at this present moment in time, which is an absolute key fundamental role within the club. But you don't necessarily need to enjoy football. You just need to enjoy numbers, I guess. So there's
You're not selling it.
I'm not. There's always a wide range of roles that people can help and support with. We're always looking for club sponsors to help, especially with some of our younger teams that need sponsors on their shirts at this present moment in time. So there's massive ways of supporting. And then there's obviously the football side as well. Coaches, managers, they're absolutely gold dust.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, please do share those links as well. Stuart will be happy to share them through the pod socials. I guess maybe to finish off then, chaps, where would you like to see the youth section in sort of 5 years from now? What's the aspiration?
There's a couple of things, really. One is that, Stu's alluded to it already, that we're based from the new ground and new facilities that the first team are looking at developing, and that would be a great start for us. And then initially to become the premier grassroots club in the North East, or the place to go for all young players that are wanting to progress in their pathways to men's and women's football. And then really, lastly, longer term, as Darlington returns to the Football League, for us to form the basis of an academy model. So that would be the ideal, but obviously that might be a season or two away.
Brilliant. Really do appreciate your time, gents, coming on and chatting about such an important part of the football club. And hopefully it can grow from strength to strength. And so thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks to Stuart and Lee there. Chaps, usually customary to finish with a quiz. So for today's offering, you might have seen on the socials, I put something out a few days ago. It's almost 23 years when a former certain chairman paraded Tino Asprilla across the Feetham's pitch to a bemused Darlaw crowd. Now we all know how that one finished up, don't we? But that was obviously before a game. Darlington were taking on Carlisle United, and we actually won that game 2-0. So for the quiz today, chaps, what I've got the team list for Darlaw for that game in front of me here. And I want to see between the two of you how many of those you can name. So obviously we've got the starting 11 and I've got 5 substitutes as well. So we might just go in turn to see, how far we can get here. So if you want to try and get that lodged into your mind and think about the early noughties and who might have been turning out for Darlaw around that time. Yeah, I don't know who's keen to start. Maybe we'll start with you, John, because you're the newbie here today. So
well, we'll start with the goalkeeper then. It must have been Andy Collett. Must have been in goal round about then, I would have thought.
Yep, Andy Collett was in goal. Yeah, over to you, David.
Barry Conlon was up top that night, I think.
He was, we never got to see how a Asprilla-Conlon partnership would have looked like. I reckon they would have just tore it up, wouldn't they? Yeah.
The bald Messiah. Definitely one of my favourite ever Darlington players, Barry Conlon.
Yeah, mine too.
Alongside Tom Owen, probably Robbie Blake. Fantastic.
Yeah, all right. So we've got Collett and Conlon. Back to you, John.
Oh, another one. Right. Well, Craig Liddell must have been around. Yep. Craig Liddell.
He was indeed, yeah. Yeah, the Messiah. Another Messiah, yes.
The real Messiah,
okay. David.
I think if we're staying at centre-half, at the back, I think Matt Clark would have been his partner that night.
Yeah, Matt Clark. You are correct. I think he even did a turn up front a few games, didn't he, Matt
He
Clark?
Did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I remember him.
Got a belter of a volley at the Tin Shed end, didn't he? Not necessarily in that game, but just that season, I remember it. Yeah.
Yes, I think I remember that. I can't remember the opposition, but he did. Yes, he did score a volley in front of the shed. I was in the shed myself. Yeah. Can't remember the opposition. Maybe a listener can help there. But we're doing well here, chaps. We're 4 and 4. So we're back to John. Yep.
Darlaw, I'd say Darlaw cult hero. Probably not one of people's favourite players, but everybody was fond of him and would point back in with a lot of fondness. I hope after that build-up he was actually in the team. Was it Ryan Valentine?
Yeah, Ryan Valentine, yes. He was. Yep, he was at full-back. Doing well so far, David?
I was building the back four in my head, and I was going to say Ryan, and I'm going to take a punt here. So I think it would have been Collett, Valentine, Liddell, Clark, and I reckon Simon Betts might have been right back that night.
And you'd be right, he was. You've got the back four there, yeah. Well done. All right, John.
Well done.
Okay.
I think your Aussie mate might have been in the team as well, Clark Kelty.
Clark was not in the team.
Wasn't he?
He was around the squad at the time. I'm not sure if he was injured. Clark Kelty was not in the 16. So, David, you can take it out here.
Well, so I would have said Clark. Other midfield, Neil Maddison, did he play that night?
He did, yes. Ooh, Neil Maddison. Yeah. He actually went off, but yeah, he did start the game. So I think you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 you've named. Well, go on, John. I'll give you another go. You're unlucky there with Clark Kelty.
We'll give it another go then. Ashley Nichols.
Ashley Nichols, he was there. I think he went on to Cambridge or something, didn't he? After Darlow.
Yeah.
Ashley Nichols. Go on then, David.
I'm guessing we had 2 up top. Would Danny Mellenby he was in and out with injuries, but he was around that time. Would he have been playing?
No, Danny Mellenby was not. I'm not sure if Danny had left the club by then. Maybe if it was the previous season, perhaps. Obviously went on to play for us in the Northern League as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
I've played against Danny Mellenby, actually, once. Played 5-a-side against him. Yeah, absolutely tortured us. Yeah, brilliant.
I've got a couple of others in my mind. I've got a couple of others that I'm thinking of. But I'll only have got one, obviously. I'm going to take a punt on the less obvious one because there's a little tricky winger that I'm thinking of, but I'll let David go with him. I'm thinking, did we have on loan a striker, Richard Offion? He was on loan that season? Did it fall in? No,
sorry.
It was January
he might have come later. Yeah,
he was. FA Cup. He scored in the FA Cup, didn't he?
Yeah. Was it Farnborough? Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, he did score in the cup though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no Richard Offion.
Neil Wainwright must have played that night, surely.
Neil didn't. I've written an article on this, and I did a few years ago. I did speak to Neil. He was like Clark, part of the squad, but he was unavailable that game. So no, he wasn't in the 16. So we've got 1, 2. We've got 3 that we're missing from the starting 11.
Yeah, we'll go with another tricky winger then. Was it Richard Hodgson?
No, Richard Hodgson. I remember him, left winger as well, wasn't he? He was around that time, wasn't he? But no, he's not on the list. No.
Oh, hang on. I might have one.
Go on.
I think he was still with us at this time, and he's got Ian Clark.
Ian Clark, yes, because Ian told me actually for this article he would have been dropped if Tino had come in, and he said, he can't really be knocking on the gaffer's door saying, "Come on, play me," when you've got Tino in front of you there. So Ian Clark, yes,
the ginger Ginola.
That's the one, yes. So 2 to go from the 11 chaps, and then there's 5 subs.
2 to go. Gary Pearson.
No, Gary. Not amongst the substitutes and not in the 11. I think he broke into the team later that season, didn't he? Yeah.
Did he? Fair enough.
I think he may have done. Yeah.
I've been racking my entire time, and I think we'll have had a keeper on the bench, and I think the sub keeper was the lad from Sunderland that year, Porter.
Yes, Chris Porter. You've got
Chris
that
one. Porter. Porter. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a sub.
Well done.
Porter.
Well done. Did we play 5 at the back or?
I'm thinking it was a back 4. Looking at this, looking at the players the 2 players that you're missing. I mean, if you get one of these players, boys, then you've done very well. And if you're playing along at home, if you're still listening, if you've got this player, you've done incredibly well. So you're missing a centre mid, and then I think this would have been a wide midfielder, obviously not Neil Wainwright, but I think a loanee, only made a handful of appearances for us.
I'm just trying to think of who I can remember.
I'm thinking of a random loanee now. Ross Chisholm. I don't even know whether he played in that. He was probably at the Arena, wasn't he?
He was.
I think he was the Arena, Ross Chisholm, wasn't he?
Was he Staunton, was he?
Who was the lad from Leeds, the midfielder from Leeds? We bought
Tom Newey.
No, he was on. Oh well, him. But I was thinking of the other lad.
Not Tom.
Mark Ford.
Yes, Mark Ford. Yep, centre mid.
Where the hell are these coming from?
Leeds player, I think Torquay United as well.
Mark Ford.
I'm gonna give you the last one because I don't think you'll get it if we played here all night. So Phil Hadland was the 11th.
Oh, okay.
You were looking for there. I think I looked him up. 6 games on loan.
Rochdale.
And then. Oh, yeah, can't remember. He could have been. Yeah, could have been. On the bench, Glenn Naylor come on for Neil Maddison and scored twice. He got both goals in that 2-0 win. And then the other subs you were missing were Mark Kilty, who was a young player. I think had a really bad injury, which kind of that was him then, wasn't it? John Alexander, young striker.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was 16 or 17 or something at the time. And then David T.Y. McGurk.
McGurk, yeah.
Yeah, the final substitute you were missing there. I can tell you, actually, the referee that day was Howard Webb.
Ah,
wow.
Okay.
So, yeah, after he went on to ref a World Cup final. So, there you go. A nice one to finish off with there. Yeah. So, look, thank you, guys. I know it's probably not easy to chat when it's sort of not going great guns on the pitch, isn't it? And to sort of try and keep the faith. But no, I'm feeling revitalised, I think, now after having spoke to you a bit disillusioned before. But now, in terms of the next pod, I'm going to be back in the UK in a few weeks. So hoping to get along to Blackwell Meadows. Although the fixture list has done me dirty looking at it, I think maybe I might get to the Peterborough Sports game, and then it depends how the FA Cup goes. I think we've got the draw coming up, haven't we, on Monday? So, but certainly hoping to get along to Blackwell Meadows. In terms of a pod, it might actually make it harder for me to record a pod being back home, but I'm sure I'll get around to doing one at some point. But, look, thank you so much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks for letting us know about the new ground as well, John. I know it's obviously a hot topic, and hopefully we can get some sort of resolution there, and keep our fingers crossed.
No problem.
But that's all for today, and I'll see you maybe in a month or two, listener. Not too sure, but keep the faith is the message. So big thanks to David and John, and it's
thanks, Adam.
Goodbye from me. Thank you.
Thank you.